On a Tuesday night in New York City, two doctors were attacked inside of their office and emergency personnel were called to a high-rise building on the Upper East Side. Hello everyone, welcome to Real Crime Explained. Residents were shocked and apprehensive when reports surfaced that a man wielding a meat cleaver had carried out the attack and had managed to flee back into the streets. The subsequent investigations set out to follow every line of inquiry. There were seemingly infinite choices when faced with a strange and seemingly unrelated set of clues, but no suspicions were emerging from them. From a big, close-knit family came Dr. Catherine Fahy. She was raised in Queens. She fulfilled her aim of going to Manhattan and becoming a therapist despite her family's low finances and her father passing away when she was a young girl. After completing her studies at Hunter College, she took a job as an X-ray technician and attended Yeshiva University at night to complete her doctoral studies in psychology. Dr. Catherine Fahy, 56, had just recently taught herself to play the guitar by the time 2008 rolled around. She had a creative side and enjoyed painting, singing, and traveling to Paris. Every year, she visited the city to spend time there. For more than 20 years, Dr. Fahy has been a licensed psychologist in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. She resided in an apartment directly across the street with her husband, Walter. She shared an office with a psychiatrist named Dr. Kent Schinbach, where she conducted her own business. Dr. Schinbach, 70, treated illnesses like schizophrenia and depression with a variety of patients. On February 12, a Tuesday after 8 p.m., Dr. Schinbach had just finished the last appointment of the day when he heard a string of muddled noises coming from Dr. Catherine Fahy's office across the hall. Before entering, he made numerous knocks on the door. He discovered the office in a mess. The doctor then noticed Catherine lying on the ground, all crushed up to his left. A short while later, a stranger approached him from behind and yelled, "She's dead," before pushing him to the ground. The man was holding a bloodied meat cleaver that had already lost its handle. The subsequent interaction lasted for 10 minutes and Kent Schinbach would never forget it. Dr. Fahy had suffered 15 blows from a knife and a mallet attack. She didn't make it. Dr. Schinbach was taken emergency care. He suffered severe wounds to his face and left arm. He underwent surgery and recovered fully.
He went into the office of his victim and attacked her with both a knife and a meat cleaver. The office was in disarray, as you might imagine. There was just furniture overturned, blood on the walls and the floor of the office.
Police did not have any suspects or anyone in custody after the attack. The community was on edge due to the attack's violence and seeming randomness.
I'm shocked. I mean, this is quite frightening. It's terrifying and very, very sad.
It was rather disturbing, and my window faces right that entrance to the building.
Pretty horrifying. Especially this wasn't some random shooting. This is a guy with a meat cleaver.
A genuinely unsettling tale was given to the investigators. The set of clues that the investigators were given was extremely strange. When the assailant swiftly left the area, he left behind luggage and a few other belongings. Along with this, there were a number of other unsettling objects, including a rope, duct tape, a set of 8 kitchen knives, and a rubber mallet. 2 luggage full of adult diapers, clothing for women, a top, and a pair of plush slippers were also abandoned. It wasn't immediately clear how this could have affected the crime. A variety of forensic evidence was available at the crime scene. Detectives were collecting and analyzing the blood at the scene, looking for DNA traces from the attacker and gathering fingerprints and fibers. The fact that one of the suitcases could be expanded led at least some investigators to believe the assailant meant to kidnap Catherine Fahy and take her with him or her inside. There were other witnesses from the New York Police Department. In addition to Dr. Schinbach, who was recuperating in the hospital, the attacker was confronted by a patient as he ran. Although he was able to describe the assault to authorities, the doctor was unable to identify the assailant. A composite drawing of the man was created and quickly posted on posters and in the media all over the Upper East Side. The security video from the office building was the next source used by the detectives. A man carrying a second suitcase was seen entering the premises at 8 o'clock and exiting Dr. Fahy's office 59 minutes later. The guy moved purposefully through the premises as if he knew where he was going. This implied that even if the murder was chaotic, it was still a deliberate act. Even though the murderer had requested a doorman for Catherine Fahy's office suite-mate, Dr. Schinbach, investigators came to suspect that Catherine Fahy was the intended victim. Although privacy regulations prevented it, investigators were eager to look through Catherine's customer lists for any leads. The MLIPT had to wait while they obtained a court order allowing them to see the doctor's records. Could the attacker be a patient of the doctor's? Well,
it was certainly not a position to rule anything in or out at this time. The investigation is being aggressively conducted, and we're not going to rule out any hypothesis at this time.
According to officials, they are concentrating on the possibility that the attacker was not the victim's patient, but rather someone she knew outside of her line of work, such as a relative, husband, or lover. Investigators investigated Dr. Fahy's emails, phone records, and physical files as they pursued many possible leads in their search for her killer. Detectives spent up to 8 hours questioning Catherine's friend William Koonsman, with whom she had lately exchanged text messages and phone conversations. William was a musician who had met Dr. Fahy and Walter 6 years earlier while attending a guitar camp. Despite the lack of romance in their conversations, Catherine and William still had personal ones. Dr. Schinbach and the patient from the waiting area both saw a picture of William. He was not recognized as the attacker by the sufferer. Dr. Schinbach, on the other hand, reportedly did, but William Koonsman did not match the description or the attributes of the man in the CCTV tape. The man on the videotape had a bald area, and he had a fuller appearance than the one the witnesses had described. After the attacker had attacked both doctors, the female patient who had been in Dr. Schinbach's office actually challenged him. She kneed the attacker in the groin as soon as he emerged from the attack covered in blood, and she locked the office suite's doors as he escaped. She was positive they were focusing on the incorrect man. Following a 4:30 a.m. police visit, William voluntarily went to the police station. He was released without charges after a protracted interrogation and was never designated as an official suspect. He could not possibly have been in New York City when the incident occurred.
That's what people are talking about. They're very upset. It's just terrible, terrible thing to happen.
On buildings, at the bus stop, wanted signs posted throughout this Upper East Side neighborhood had residents acutely aware police were still searching for a killer.
They discovered a match after thoroughly processing the fingerprints. David Tarloff, a guy. Dr. Catherine Fahy has not previously had David as a patient. In reality, he was in no way associated with a psychologist. David Tarloff, however, had been a patient of Dr. Kent Schinbach 17 years ago. The now 39-year-old man had gone back to the doctor's office that had first had him involuntarily committed to a mental hospital when he was first diagnosed with schizophrenia in his early 20s.
This morning at approximately 5:40 a.m., investigators matched the first 3 palm prints taken from evidence at the crime scene with those of Tarloff. Tarloff answered the door to his apartment this morning and accompanied detectives to the 19th precinct in Manhattan, where he made statements implicating himself in the homicide and the assault. I believe he wanted to rob Dr. Schinbach, get money from Dr. Schinbach, and perhaps leave the country with his mother.
Police questioned David Tarloff after his capture and imprisonment. His lengthy history of mental illness was revealed by investigators who were looking into his background. Antipsychotic drugs were given to David to treat his hallucinations and delusions. He has a schizophrenia diagnosis and has frequently been admitted to the hospital against his will, starting with a selection made in 1991 by Dr. Kent Schinbach. It was alarming because he had only about 3 months earlier been discharged from an involuntary stay. David Tarloff had been more unpredictable and obsessed since his mother, Beatrice, moved from the Queens apartment they shared into a nursing home 4 years ago. He had come to believe that none of the homes where his mother had been placed provided her with adequate care. The final straw for David was being forbidden from seeing her. He developed an obsession with the need to care for Beatrice on his own. To save his mother, David had a strategy. He would pack her things, steal thousands from his ex-psychiatrist, who he believed to be very wealthy, and then board a plane for Hawaii with his mother. David claimed he had no desire to harm anyone as he entered the facility carrying a bag full of knives, a hammer, and a butcher cleaver. Instead of Dr. Schinbach, who was supposed to be present, Catherine Fahy was there when he walked into the office. He answered in a panic.
I'm sorry, that woman, I didn't know her. I didn't know she was going to be there. I called to make sure that he was going to be there. I didn't know. I thought it was his own office. I didn't know any. I called Gracie Square. This is his office. I wrote it down. I went there. I knocked on the door just to see if he was going to be there. I know his last one was 8 o'clock. I said, do you know where the bathroom is? The secretary. I said, I just wanted, I figured, she said, yes, she left. And I left. And then I waited in the bathroom and I heard everybody leave. I swear I heard everybody leave because I wasn't going to hurt anybody. Please remember this. I swear to God, on my mother's life. Dear mother, I swear to God. And then, that's it. I'm sorry. All I wanted was to get money from him. So I thought he was rich. So I could go there, get his money, I was gonna leave him there. I had this hammer. I was gonna hit him. It was metal. I didn't want to hurt him. I was gonna tie him up and scare him. I never was gonna touch him. I could go to Hawaii. My mother would arrest me. My mother would get better. I packed stuff for her, diapers and everything, to take her away.
Kent Schinbach was supposed to be scared when David entered. He'd bind him and demand money. He admitted to officers that he thought he needed about $50,000 to carry out his scheme. So that he could withdraw as much cash as possible, he needed the doctor's PIN code to access the ATM. Then he alleged Dr. Fahy attacked him. David believed Catherine was out to get him.
I didn't know that lady was going to be there. I went to it because I heard a noise and I just wanted to go in and look. She attacked me. Everything happened so fast. I swear to God. I was just going to tie him up, tape him up, shut the door, go. I didn't know anything. I was going to take his card. I even begged him for the number. I wrote it down. But he had a 7-digit number or something, and I know the account's a 4-digit. I had it down. He wouldn't tell me. I tried to leave. I did. I left. I wasn't in it. I didn't want that lady. I thought she was going to kill me. I didn't know what to do.
David swore he wasn't an aggressive person. He didn't have a criminal record, but he did have a drug problem. He specifically mentioned drugs that were challenging to find. David claimed that his mind occasionally grows weary. He also talked about the incident he had with a female patient while he was running away.
I swear to God, I never had a misdemeanor. I had parking tickets as a kid. I lived in that building for 40 years. The worst thing I did was asking people for a few dollars because I was on the drugs, but I never stole. I paid for it. My brain was tired. I found it accidentally. The medication was so hard to get. I'm sorry. Please go. And she wouldn't listen. Go in the bathroom. I was there. I don't know her name. She was a blonde girl. Right? So then, please, I was going in the bathroom and she started kicking me. So then I heard like, So then I ran. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to go to Hawaii.
Murder in the first degree was alleged against David Tarloff. The state believed that when he entered the building, he was ready to commit murder, and that his intention was to kill regardless of his intended victim. It shouldn't come as a surprise that his defense team planned to claim that he was not guilty due to insanity. However unlikely it was to succeed, they would pursue this defense if the independent psychiatrists were in agreement. If they convinced a jury, David would probably be sent to a mental hospital for the remainder of his life, rather than sent to jail.
Right now, it's inconclusive findings as to the forensic psychiatric evaluation. We're open to the plea changing in the future.
While still in college, David Tarloff was originally diagnosed with schizophrenia. He felt as though his brain were disintegrating, as he told the doctors. Over the years, he maintained that he had seen the eye of God on his kitchen floor and that his brain had been speaking to him as Satan, while he was under the impression that he was the Messiah. He had a delusion that God was telling him to rob Dr. Schinbach so he could use the money to get his mother out of the nursing home on the day he walked into Catherine Fahy's office brandishing a butcher cleaver. But regardless of whether his sickness contributed to these delusions, his attorneys had to persuade the jury that he was too ill on that particular day to understand the repercussions of his actions, that stabbing Dr. Fahy may result in her death, or that the attack was wrong. In 2010, David was determined to be mentally fit to stand trial, at which point the jury selection process started. But there was a chance that David's condition was getting worse as the trial date drew near. He had been sent from Bellevue Hospital Center to Rikers Island, the biggest penitentiary in New York City. On this one point, the prosecution agreed with the defense and requested that David be sent back to the hospital for at the very least a mental health evaluation.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that woman. I didn't know her. I didn't know she was going to be there. That's it. I'm sorry.
Before the jury selection procedure could be finished, a mistrial was ruled. David had been deemed unfit for court after refusing to leave a courthouse holding cell and running around a mental unit naked. David Tarloff was eventually tried 3 years later.